What if I told you that the man who walks in diamond-studded sneakers and throws parties that could feed a small city might also be the same man hiding secrets darker than the night sky? That is the paradox of Jamal Roberts in 2025. On the surface, the story looks glamorous, like a movie that never ends. He is photographed beside imported cars, private jets, and sprawling mansions. Social media shows him smiling with his wife, their children enjoying summers by the pool, the perfect family portrait. How does one man build a fortune so quickly, so loudly, and yet so mysteriously? This is not a story of business alone. This is a story of luxury stitched together with suspicion, where every million sparks a question and every possession hides a possibility. Jamal's lifestyle begins with a hook that leaves jaws dropping. A mansion carved out of glass and marble that overlooks the city like a fortress of wealth. At first glance, it screams success, but look closer and the cracks begin to show. Neighbors talk about the endless trucks arriving at odd hours, unloading furniture that costs more than entire homes. They speak of armed guards walking the perimeter at night, as if protecting something more than expensive art. The house itself becomes a metaphor for Jamal's life. Dazzling lights on the outside, shadowed corridors within. His wife, always poised and elegant, smiles for the cameras, but insiders claim she rarely speaks in public without carefully rehearsed lines. It feels staged, like a performance, leaving people wondering what is real and what is carefully painted illusion. The money trail adds another layer to the mystery. Jamal Roberts is listed as the head of multiple companies, each one branching into another like roots of an ancient tree. Fashion lines, entertainment firms, even supposed investments in tech startups. Yet none of these ventures ever show the kind of profits that match the lifestyle he flaunts. An investigator might tell you the math does not add up. How can a man with ventures that barely touch the surface of profitability spend millions on custom jewelry and global vacations? That is where the story turns from glamour to suspicion. Rumors swirl of deals struck in smoky backrooms, of investments that are less about technology and more about moving money. Each rumor feeds the image of a millionaire whose empire might not be built on stone, but on shifting sand. But the most haunting question surrounds his net worth in 2025. Estimates place it in the tens of millions, yet every estimate is wrapped in uncertainty. One financial journal speculates 50 million. Another whispers it might be closer to 100. What none of them can explain is how that wealth multiplies while the official records remain so vague. Jamal never seems worried. In interviews, he laughs off the questions, brushing them aside with charming words. To the public, he is untouchable, a man too confident to be cornered. But to those who dig deeper, his confidence looks more like the mask of someone who knows the game too well. The figures, the assets, the sudden rises in fortune. They all feel like pieces of a puzzle where some crucial parts are deliberately missing. And yet behind every photograph, every dollar sign, stands the image of his wife and children. They are presented as the crown jewel of his empire, the emotional center of the story. To the outside world, they look like the perfect family. Expensive vacations, matching designer outfits, smiles that light up magazine covers. But imagine living in a home where questions hang heavier than chandeliers. What stories do the children hear when whispers of scandal reach their classrooms? What weight does the wife carry balancing her husband's reputation with her own silence? Their lives become part of the narrative whether they wish it or not. And that is the unsettling truth of Jamal Roberts in 2025. His million-dollar lifestyle may look like the dream, but behind the velvet curtains, it feels like the beginning of a crime story still waiting to fully unfold. The glittering parties and flashing cameras are only the surface of Jamal Roberts' story. When you step away from the velvet ropes and flashing lights, the questions begin to feel heavier than the champagne glasses he pours for his guests. Point 2 of this tale takes us into the world behind those parties, the quiet corridors where whispers travel faster than sound. Every dollar that feeds this millionaire lifestyle has a shadow attached to it, and those shadows refuse to remain silent. The deeper you look, the more you realize his fortune is not just about wealth. It is about power, control, and perhaps even deception. And like every story of unchecked power, cracks begin to appear at the edges where truth struggles to break free. At the center of suspicion is how Jamal manages to fund his astonishing empire. The businesses in his portfolio look glamorous on paper, but industry insiders confess they rarely see his companies make the kind of waves that produce real millions. A clothing line that sells limited pieces, an event company that throws extravagant gatherings, a film production unit that has yet to release a major success. None of these alone explain the fortune he flaunts. Analysts scratch their heads wondering how a man with ventures this uncertain maintains such unstoppable momentum. The easy explanation is hidden wealth. But hidden from where? Some claim he has undisclosed international backers. Others hint at investments in areas no one dares to mention in public. These suggestions hang in the air like smoke, unseen yet impossible to ignore. What makes the puzzle more intriguing is Jamal's apparent immunity from scrutiny. Most public figures with sudden wealth attract investigators like moths to a flame. But Jamal somehow always seems 3 steps ahead. Whenever financial reporters start to dig, the trail becomes blurred. Records vanish. Addresses linked to shell companies. Even when authorities ask questions, the answers dissolve into legal jargon. It feels orchestrated, like someone is pulling invisible strings to keep the spotlight fixed only on his glamorous surface. To his fans, this looks like genius. To his critics, it looks like manipulation. And the louder he plays the role of untouchable millionaire, the more people begin to ask if his immunity is not luck but leverage. But perhaps the most chilling part of this story is the psychological picture it paints. Jamal thrives on control, over money, over image, over narrative. He understands that perception is power, and he plays it like a master. Social media shows him not just as a wealthy man, but as a symbol of aspiration. Young people follow him, repost his videos, dream of his cars and clothes. He becomes larger than life, a walking brand. Yet beneath that brand there is a sense of calculation, as if every post, every photo, every public appearance is another piece of armor shielding him from deeper questions. The man who looks like he has it all might also be the man most afraid of losing control. That fear can drive anyone into dangerous territory. And then comes the family again. The wife whose elegance hides a silence that feels almost scripted, the children who grow up in the spotlight of a world they never chose. Insiders whisper that the family rarely appears together outside of orchestrated events. Rumors suggest arguments behind closed doors, disagreements over how far the image should go, and questions about whether living under constant suspicion is worth the millions it buys. The wife in particular is said to be the anchor holding the family from tipping into chaos. Yet even anchors can crack under enough weight. To outsiders, it looks like a dream household. But for those who study the dynamics of wealth built on uncertain foundations, it feels like a fragile stage play where the curtain could fall at any moment. The second layer of Jamal Roberts' story is darker than the first. What began as a tale of wealth and family is now a study of shadows. Shadows that stretch across industries, records, and lives. The million-dollar lifestyle remains glamorous to the world, but step closer and you see the cracks forming. How long can a man balance fortune on secrets? How long can the illusion last before the truth forces its way through the gold-plated walls? That is the question that hangs heavy over Jamal Roberts in 2025, and it is a question that may define not only his legacy but his freedom. The third layer of Jamal Roberts' story takes us deeper into the machinery of his wealth, where luxury and suspicion collide in ways that leave even hardened investigators unsettled. On the surface, Jamal's life looks like a highlight reel of success. Red carpets, exotic getaways, limited edition sports cars with engines that roar louder than the crowds that follow him. But wealth, when it grows too fast and shines too bright, always demands a closer look. And when you follow the faint lines behind Jamal's empire, you begin to see the outlines of something more sinister than just bad accounting. It feels like a game of chess where every piece on the board has already been moved in advance, where the endgame is not about winning, but about keeping secrets hidden as long as possible. Whispers about financial misconduct have long followed Jamal, though they are always brushed off as jealousy or gossip. Yet insiders talk about money moving in strange ways. Large transfers made through shell companies registered in countries known for secrecy, properties purchased and sold at suspiciously fast speeds, investments that appear for a season and vanish before the ink on the papers has dried. One former associate who requested anonymity described Jamal's system as maze built to be confusing. Every time someone tries to follow the money, they end up back at the start, staring at nothing but shadows. To the public, this is dismissed as the complexity of modern business. But to those who understand the patterns, it looks eerily like a deliberate design to keep prying eyes away. The parties Jamal throws are another layer of intrigue. These gatherings are not just celebrations, they are showcases of power. Foreign investors, celebrities, and figures with reputations that often skirt the edge of legality are said to mingle freely at his events. The champagne flows, the music drowns suspicion, but deals are whispered between clinks of glasses. Some claim these parties act as a stage for transactions far bigger than the eye can see. Transactions where millions change hands in silence, cloaked under the excuse of networking. To a casual guest, it looks like decadence. To those who look harder, it feels like business masked as pleasure, with the true purpose hidden behind velvet curtains. But what stands out most is Jamal's unshakable ability to escape consequences. In a world where sudden wealth usually brings investigations, Jamal continues to move without stumbling. Authorities raise questions, journalists launch probes, yet somehow nothing sticks. Files vanish, witnesses withdraw, and stories are buried before they reach headlines. To some, this is proof of his brilliance, a man too clever to be caught. To others, it suggests connections so powerful that they silence opposition before it even speaks. In crime, survival often depends less on skill and more on who protects you. And Jamal's survival so far feels almost supernatural, as if someone larger, more invisible, holds the umbrella that keeps him dry while storms rage around him. And then comes the question of morality. Luxury, when built on shaky ground, always carries a cost. For Jamal, that cost may not be in dollars, but in relationships, in trust, in the silent erosion of a family that becomes part of the performance. His wife continues to smile at his side, but those close to them whisper about her exhaustion, the effort it takes to play the role of perfection while shadows threaten to swallow the light. The children growing up in a world where wealth replaces normality are both privileged and vulnerable. They inherit not only riches, but also the weight of rumors, the constant buzz of questions about their father's empire. The line between safety and danger grows thin when your fortune attracts both admiration and enemies. Point 3 of Jamal Roberts' tale reveals a chilling reality. Behind the shimmering facade of cars, homes, and designer clothes lies a labyrinth no outsider has ever fully navigated. The money flows, the lifestyle dazzles, but the unanswered questions multiply faster than the millions in his accounts. Each rumor, each whisper, each sudden vanishing of evidence adds another layer of darkness. The millionaire image remains polished and shining, but the foundation feels unstable, like a mansion built on shifting sand. How long can Jamal keep the illusion alive? How long before the truth buried beneath the glitz forces its way to the surface? The story of Jamal Roberts is no longer just about wealth. It is about the dangerous dance between appearance and reality, between fortune and downfall. By the time you reach the 4th layer of Jamal Roberts' life, the story no longer feels like a simple biography of wealth and success. It begins to resemble a slow-burning thriller where each new detail hints at an inevitable collapse. The surface remains dazzling, the exotic vacations to islands most people will never step foot on, the diamond watches that glimmer under spotlights, the private jets with interiors more lavish than 5-star hotels. To the public eye, Jamal is still untouchable, a symbol of what money can buy. But if you pause long enough to peel back the images carefully staged for cameras, you start to sense the silent storms gathering just beyond view. The real drama is not in the millions he spends, but in the fragile system of secrets holding it all together. One of the most unsettling aspects of Jamal's empire is how closely his name circles with rumors of organized financial manipulation. To critics, his wealth feels less like the product of innovation and more like the product of calculation. Carefully moving money, exploiting loopholes, and building a kingdom designed to resist inspection. Sources suggest that some of his companies operate less as functioning businesses and more as channels for movement. Money in, money out, with little to show in between. Every transfer is masked with technical jargon buried under layers of paperwork that only a handful of experts can decipher. To most people, it looks complex but legitimate. To those with sharper eyes, it looks like a blueprint for hiding truth in plain sight. And yet, the louder the questions grow, the calmer Jamal appears. His confidence has become a weapon, turning suspicion into entertainment for his audience. When interviewers press about his net worth in 2025, he smiles, deflects, and transforms the conversation into jokes about success and hard work. He frames doubt as jealousy, painting himself as the underdog who beat the system, the man who deserves his fortune, because he dared to chase bigger dreams than anyone else. For fans, this narrative is intoxicating. It shifts the focus away from facts and into emotion-building loyalty where logic might demand scrutiny. But for investigators, his calm only deepens the unease. Men who are guilty often panic. Men who are guilty and calm usually know something no one else does. His family, once the backdrop of his perfect image, becomes more central in this stage of the story. The wife's silence, the carefully curated smiles of the children, the absence of candid moments. They all begin to feel less like reality and more like marketing. Observers point out that nearly every public family moment is tied to promotion, whether for a brand an event or a company launch. The household feels staged like actors playing roles in a performance designed to protect the empire. Yet no performance can last forever. People close to the family whisper of strain, of growing tension, of questions asked behind closed doors that never reach the outside world. If wealth is supposed to bring comfort, then why does this empire feel more like a burden carried on fragile shoulders? The most dangerous consequence of Jamal's lifestyle is not just suspicion, but exposure. The higher you rise, the more visible you become, and visibility attracts both admiration and enemies. Reports suggest that competitors, rivals, and even former associates are beginning to collect information, storing details like ammunition for the moment the illusion breaks. In the world of crime and finance, downfall rarely comes from strangers. It comes from those once trusted, those who know enough to see the cracks and push when the time is right. If Jamal's wealth truly hides secrets, then the greatest threat may not be the public or the media, but the insiders waiting silently for their chance to strike. By point 4, the image of Jamal Roberts is both mesmerizing and terrifying. On one hand, he remains the face of wealth, the dream that millions admire. On the other, he looks like a man walking a tightrope stretched dangerously thin between glory and ruin. His net worth in 2025 may make headlines, but it is the unseen forces behind it. The whispers, the manipulations, the silent battles that define the true story. The lifestyle dazzles, but the foundation trembles. And if history has taught anything, it is that every empire built on shadows eventually faces the light. By the time we reach the 5th and final layer of Jamal Roberts' story, it feels less like a celebration of wealth and more like the climax of a crime drama where the line between success and downfall grows razor thin. The mansion, the cars, the jewelry, the jets, all of it still shines under the spotlight, but the whispers behind that shine have grown too loud to ignore. In 2025, Jamal's net worth stands as a symbol of both triumph and suspicion, an empire that reflects brilliance on the outside yet raises questions about the true cost of keeping it all together. The world sees the luxury, but those who dig deeper begin to wonder if the empire itself is not a monument to success, but a ticking clock counting down to an inevitable exposure. The hook of Jamal's final act is the sheer scale of his influence. He does not just own wealth, he controls narratives. Social media, press coverage, interviews, each one bends to his charisma. His fans defend him fiercely, dismissing every accusation as hate, while his critics insist the truth is hiding in plain sight. This tug-of-war between admiration and doubt keeps him relevant, keeps him powerful. And yet within this war lies the danger. Power built on perception is fragile. One crack in the image, one undeniable revelation, and the entire empire risks collapse like glass under pressure. It is this fragility that makes his story so haunting. Because no matter how polished the surface, the weight of secrets always leaves fractures beneath. Insiders warn that investigations are slowly tightening around Jamal's fortune. The financial structures that once looked untouchable are now being studied with sharper eyes. Regulators and watchdogs are said to be quietly connecting dots, linking shell companies to suspicious transactions, revisiting old deals that were once buried. For now, nothing has exploded into public scandal, but the quiet buildup of scrutiny feels like the silent seconds before thunder. History has shown that fortunes built on shadows often end not with a bang, but with a slow unraveling where piece by piece the truth becomes impossible to contain. If Jamal's wealth has skeletons buried beneath it, those skeletons may not remain hidden for long. But what gives this story its deepest weight is not the money or the parties. It is the family caught in the center of it all. His wife, poised in public but rumored to be wary behind the scenes, becomes a symbol of silent endurance. His children, growing up in unimaginable luxury, are also growing up under the shadow of constant suspicion. What will they inherit? The fortune or the fallout? The family image, once his strongest shield, risks becoming the most painful casualty if the empire collapses. In crime stories, the collateral damage is often the people who never asked to be part of the game. And here the family becomes the most tragic reflection of wealth built on secrets. The final picture of Jamal Roberts in 2025 is both dazzling and chilling. A millionaire who walks with untouchable confidence, a family framed as perfection, an empire that dazzles millions yet hides unanswered questions. His net worth may rank him among the wealthy elite, but it also paints a target on his back, inviting scrutiny that grows sharper with each passing year. The question is not just how he earned his millions, but how long he can hold on to them before the shadows close in. In the end, Jamal Roberts' story is not simply about luxury. It is about the razor's edge between image and reality, the dangerous cost of secrets, and the haunting truth that even the brightest lights eventually cast the darkest shadows. And so the story of Jamal Roberts closes not with answers, but with questions that refuse to die. His million-dollar lifestyle still blinds the eyes of those who only see the glitter. But for anyone who dares to look closer, the shine feels like a mask hiding a darker truth. The wife who smiles, the children who pose, the empire that stretches wider than records can explain. All of it leaves the world caught between admiration and suspicion. In the end, Jamal is more than a millionaire. He is a mystery, a symbol of how far image can carry a man and how dangerous the fall can be when the truth finally breaks through the gold-plated walls. Whether his fortune stands or crumbles, his name is already etched into 2025 as a reminder. Every empire built on shadows eventually meets the light, and when that light comes, it burns brighter than any diamond he has ever worn.